life of the school, there's probably nothing more important than celebrating the life of the mind, celebrating our sense of intellectual curiosity, how we have begun a journey of academic endeavor, starting with our youngest students in the 5th grade, and then culminating with some of the excellent work that has been done by our 8th graders. Watching you grow and develop as learners is exciting for me as your head, and I know it is really exciting for the individual teachers who work with you each and every day, shaping the way you approach information, the way you deal with it, the way you process it, the way they get you to think more deeply about topics large and small. It's an amazing thing to watch. I've spent many years in this profession, and it has to be the most joyful profession of all to watch people learn how to think, learn how to take information in, work with it, and be able to give it back to others in a way that is genuinely your own, to make it uniquely yours. And I think that's something that the Master's School does incredibly well with its students. We've all heard stories, or maybe even better, in schools who just feed you information and expect you to return it in much the same way in which it was delivered. And if you can do that, you're judged to be a good student. That doesn't happen here. That's not what we're about. That's not who we are. We want thinkers, and we have developed thinkers. I look back over the 18 years that I've been at this school, and I reflect on some of the students who have come through our halls and have gone on to do amazing things, mostly because they know how to think. And there are a couple of things that are important to me about that, and you've all heard me say this so many times in the past, but it's not how smart you are that determines your academic success, but it really comes down to how hard you work. Where is your focus? Where is your sense of determination? How do you develop relationships? That's what really matters. If you're willing to put in the time and make the effort to do your best each and every day, you are going to be enormously successful. And I can't say that often enough. You've heard me tell stories about my dad and my report cards, and I'll bore you with it one more time. The only things he looked at were the effort and the conduct piece on the report card. And if he said to my brother, my sister, or myself, "Did you try your hardest each and every day?" And if the answer was, "Yeah, Dad, I did," we were fine. And he said, the second question was, "Did you behave yourself and do what you were supposed to do each and every day?" And if the answer was, "Yeah, Dad, I did," we were golden. If the answer was anything other than that, life wasn't so pleasant in my house. But knowing me the way that you do, you know the answer was always, "Yeah, Dad, yeah." Whether it was true or not remains to be seen, but that was the answer. But my point is, it's about how much do you want it, you know? And today we're gonna celebrate some youngsters who wanted it. People who took their educations seriously, and it's a way for us to pause a little bit and congratulate them on a job well done. And it's an opportunity, I think, too, for some of our younger students to see the progression. You guys are just starting. You guys have been with us for a while, and this is more or less a capstone experience for you folks. But it's a wonderful progression. And today our focus is going to be on you, what you have achieved, how well you've met your responsibilities, you've stepped up to the plate, done what we've asked you to do. And so it's a proud moment for all of us to say thank you and say job well done. So we'll do that shortly. But before we do that, I'd like to ask Dr. Fonseca to come up and say a couple of words to us. It's always a treat to have you.
Thank you. I will have a chance to share some reflections tomorrow. So, but I just asked Doc if I could come up and say hello. because it's great to be with the whole middle school for your last assembly, a little more formal than our regular morning meetings, but also to thank you all year for how much you, each student here, contributed to the success of the middle school experience, and how much I loved seeing you grow, as Doc was mentioning. So today we'll be celebrating and focusing on some exceptional achievements, academically, primarily. I know there are other awards, I think tomorrow, right? None, all are today. Okay, so the character awards, all today, wonderful. Actually, that makes a lot more sense. We used to try and squeeze it in. But when I think about that, the academic success and also what you give in terms of your whole self, and how much this middle school together in each of your advisories, in your classes, and as a school as a whole, have sort of lived up to all the expectations I could have, and that Ms. Masters herself would have of you. So I want to thank you all, congratulate you all as you get ready for the summer, and soon you'll be in a different grade level, and especially to the 8th graders, congratulations and thank you for your great leadership and hard work. Let's all listen, I too will listen, to think, how can I keep growing? Are there some elements as the teachers or docs speak about these students coming up for awards? What are things that I want to set as goals to make myself even better, stronger academically, a better person, and to really live the values that my family has and that the school upholds. So thank you all, and thanks for giving me a few minutes here, Doc. Thank you.
Begin this morning with our language students, and so there are some of the language faculty here, so if you guys would come up and join me. I'll start this morning with the award for Mandarin. Ms. Ye is not with us this morning, but she asked me if I would make this announcement. That the Mandarin Award this year is going to a young man whose work in Chinese class has shown him to be a particularly diligent student. He managed to develop excellent study habits, improving considerably since the 7th grade. His attitude in class has been outstanding, characterized by a keen interest in finding out more about the Chinese culture and by a very Chinese respect for the teacher's work. And so, Sudanier proudly presents the award in Mandarin to Noah Roger. Recognized 3 students for their outstanding work in his course. The good news is that he is recognizing 3 students for their outstanding work in his course. The bad news is that he wrote those congratulatory remarks in Spanish, and I think that's so, you're on your own in terms of interpreting it. But let me just say that from what I have picked up from him, he has come into the office several times during the course of the year to comment to me directly on these guys and how they have taken their work to heart. They made it a priority, and I think that's an important moment. Every time I tell one of these stories, I take another important priority. So by the end of the day, we have hundreds of priorities. But that's not such a bad thing either. But that said, I would like to on behalf of Senator Calderon, recognize Daniel Cianava, Michael Fitzgerald, and Eddie Friedman, please. Despite the fact that I grew up in a Roman Catholic family and was an altar boy, my Latin is deficient other than church Latin. I can still say the Our Father, but not much more than that. So I'm going to need help from Mr. Camaros on this one. But he has some students that he would very much like to recognize for their accomplishment in Latin. Maybe you would be kind enough to read them and tell us a little bit.
Okay, so I'd like to recognize, if you all could come on up, Teddy Hoisington, Iona McWhinney, and Gabe Pollock. And so I have for each of you, I should mention that Iona and Teddy and Gabe, their work in Latin this whole year has been excellent. There was nothing that they couldn't do, really. And so I have for each of you certificates that say in Latin, I, Mr. Carpenos, gladly give this certificate to you, your name in Latin, for outstanding achievements in Latin in the middle school, and then the date in Latin. So I won't read it, but you can read it, and we can talk about it. So, okay. I wanted to also present to Iona a Latin dictionary, just to recognize that her work in Latin has been, like this dictionary, thorough, thoughtful, complete, diligent, focused. She's been a quiet leader by example and more assertively in our class, and so I would like to give this to you.
Madame Duboulet has students that she would like to recognize, but I'll let you in on a little secret. She's very nervous. And so let's take full advantage of that. You're among friends. You need not worry. But these are awards of excellence for accomplishments in French, the master's school. And would you like to read them, or would you like me to? See, she's getting over her nervousness.
Consistent
We also have awards from Senora Morton in Espanol. I'm in the same dilemma, but I would love to ask Adele to come up and recognize her students.
I want to wish congratulations, felicidades, to Sophie Cohn and to Rachel Veronica Evelyn, because they have done consistently strong work throughout the year. And I enjoy having all of my students in class. And Sophie and Veronica did very nice, strong work here. So felicidades, bravo. If you come up.
Gift of language. It really is amazing to be in our building during the course of the day, during the language blocks is pretty cool. I love to, I'm not sketching, but I do like to lurk outside and outside of the just to hear the music of language. It's such a beautiful thing to watch. It's interesting, Mr. Simon and I have this I won't call it an argument, but this conversation year after year about the relative merits of immersion, and he usually wins, and I think he's usually right about the idea that the more you use the language, the more proficient you are going to be with it, and it's wonderful to watch the progression of all of our students as they struggle mightily at the beginning. The sense of frustration, the idea that I can't do this, but I don't know the language. How am I expected to know about families and structure and grammar? But little by little, with gaining some confidence, and again back to the effort and the guidance of our language faculty, it begins to come, and you can see the joy in their eyes, and you can hear it in their voices as they master the language. So congratulations and thank you to our language faculty. We really appreciate all that. I invite Ms. Carnevale for some recognition of music students.
Hi, everyone. So it's important for me to say at the outset that the awards that we give in music have very little, if anything, to do with talent. Maybe that sounds strange coming from the music teacher, but our philosophy and our focus in the music department across all grades has more to do with service and how you contribute to the musical lives of others. So all of these people who will be acknowledged today are being acknowledged not for their talent, but for their participation, for their growth, for their effort, and for how they impact other people's musical experience and growth themselves. So there are two different awards that are given to 8th graders in the middle school as they graduate. The first is a certificate, Acknowledgement of Growth and Commendation for Effort in the Study of Music. So these are people that have been involved in school ensembles and so in that way give back to the school community with their talent. These are people that have demonstrated growth over their time at Masters, whether it's 4 years or 1 year, and who in particular have been engaged and involved this year in their 8th grade year. So if you could hold your applause to the end, I'm going to call them all up to get their certificates, and then there'll be a second award in just a moment. All right, Stephen Bowe, Daniel Cianava, Ella Hogan, Campbell Ives, June Kitahara, Suke Mbai, Diego Medina, Gabriel Pollock, Nava Shorsh, and Noah Silverman. a really musical class, and that they love to make music all the time. They're harmonizing, playing guitars. Yesterday, I couldn't get them out of the room. There were two groups trying to practice. It's a good problem. It's a good thing. Okay, so the second award is a letter of distinction in music, and this is a little more complex in terms of criteria. So I'll just read that to you so you know what the standards are. So the criteria for graduating from the Master's Middle School with a letter of distinction in music is as follows. First, the student participates in multiple elective middle school music activities. Second, the student is in good academic standing in music class, which we're defining as a B- or better. Third, the student shares their talent with others in one or more of the following ways. Either A, encourages the musicianship of others, B, encourages the participation of others in music activities, and or C, shares talent through performance, arranging, and or accompanying. Number 4, demonstrates a continued commitment to the study of music. Number 5, demonstrates a notable enthusiasm for music and musical studies. Number 6, plans to continue musical studies and contributions to the musical community at Master's or another high school. And 7, exhibits an exceptional level of skill on one or more instrument. So we have 2 students that fit that criteria this year. And it's not easy to meet all of those things. Everyone's time is very strapped, so the fact that these students were involved in multiple activities, even just off the bat, is a commendable effort. But these students both really, and I'm not even sure the extent to which they're aware of it, but really spend a lot of time encouraging the musical growth of others. They work with other people, they collaborate with people. They're both incredibly talented and yet very, very humble with their talent. So the first, I'm just going to read a little bit from the letter that the student will be receiving, and this will go into their permanent file. So this student has demonstrated growth during her time in the middle school. She is a wonderful musician with a solid ear and strong skills. Moreover, she is humble and inclusive. She uses her ability and passion to share her love of music with others. She has participated in Preludes and the middle school musical, and reflected through that participation a sensitive and refined musicality. Ms. Meadows reflects, this student is a talented, committed young artist. In both middle school ensembles and musical productions, she has taken on a leadership role. Without being asked, she steps up to lead sectionals and offer help to others. She self-corrects with little to no direction and understands the true meaning of being an ensemble musician. She brings so much joy to her music making, and this spreads to others around her. So it is my pleasure to award this first letter of distinction to Sarah Schroyer. His participation skill and musical engagement have exploded this year. He's taken every possible opportunity to make music while in the middle school. He's been a member of the middle school jazz band, the middle school orchestra, Masters of Rock, and a frequent talent show performer. And each of these, by the way, on different instruments. He has gone above and beyond the basic requirements of the program to contribute meaningfully and musically to the division and to the musical study of his peers. His hard work, growth, and dedication have been noted by all of his teachers. So first, Ms. Meadows reflects, I have witnessed his incredible growth and budding leadership within our program. He is a talented young man who loves to collaborate. He approaches ensemble experiences with a positive, willing attitude and an open heart. Mr. Mills says he's serious about contributing to the group. He works on his parts and he honestly cares about the end result. Mr. Ebersol comments, he was also a member of the middle school orchestra, playing viola. He contributed strongly to the ensemble. Mr. Pugach indicates he has shown the most improvement. He was present at every single rehearsal. You have come incredibly far this year, this student. I personally am impressed by your willingness to work with others, to teach, to collaborate, and to accompany. So it's my pleasure to award this to Jason Chan.
true what you say about this class in music. I had the good fortune this past winter to share Mrs. Borwick's advisory group in the morning. And it was a beautiful thing. Every morning there was music in that room. They sang, they just shared their joy and love of music, whether it was in my office or out in the hallways, the highways and byways of the middle school. And that's indicative of the whole group. You're a wonderful, talented musical group, and we love that about you. I wondered if I could invite Ms. Barwick and Mrs. Grumpy for some math and science recognition, please.
Good morning. This award is in recognition of students who have excelled in both math and science. And before I begin, I want to thank Mrs. Gormley. Every year when we stand here to give this award, Mrs. Gormley wears 3-inch heels. And this year she didn't. There is an association called the American Association of University Women. It is a nationwide network that for 130 years has examined and taken positions on fundamental issues of the day: educational, social, economic, and political issues. The mission of the AAUW advances equity for women and girls through advocacy, education, philanthropy, and research. Of particular importance is the goal of increasing the number of girls interested in careers in math, science, and engineering. The Westchester branch of AAUW is happy to offer a certificate to a young woman who excels in mathematics and science in the 8th grade. So we present the award in the hope that this will encourage girls in their studies of math and science. This year, the American Association of University Women certificate is awarded to 4 girls, and they could all come up at once. Their names are Rachel Ebling, Ella Hogan, Iona McWhinney, and Eden Wenberg. Congratulations.
Innate ability in and natural curiosity about math and science. As with the AAUW Award, it is our hope to encourage these young men to continue with their studies of math and science, and to also think about pursuing careers in math, science, and engineering. It is our great pleasure to give the Excellence in Mathematics and Science Award this year to the following students: Christopher Epps, Edward Friedman, Theodore Boysington, and Matthew Reffels.
I invite Mr. Campbell and Mr. Hildreth to
All right, hello. In the words of Bear Claw Grislat from Jeremiah Johnson, you've come a long way, Pilgrim. And indeed, you've come a long way since September, when you first gathered around the Harkness table to begin your exploration of American identity. It's been a remarkable year in 8th grade. You've all worked incredibly hard. It's been a pleasure to teach. I've witnessed your growth as you grapple with questions that define us as a nation, but also as a species. And one of the important themes we considered this year through the history and literature we studied was the idea of action from principle and the courage of individuals to act upon those principles. Henry David Thoreau lived this idea and wrote about it in Civil Disobedience. He wrote, "Action from principle, perception, and performance of right changes things and relations. It is essentially revolutionary." Oftentimes, that action first starts as one's desire to speak one's mind. Pearl S. Buck calls it the most glorious right in the world, for it means that people have freedom from fear because we are a free people. Frequently, the action of freely speaking and acting on one's principles takes an act of individual courage. And we've studied a lot of that this year, right? Especially if you go against the flow of popular opinion or push against the pressure to conform. John F. Kennedy wrote in Profiles in Courage, "A man does what he must in spite of personal consequences, in spite of obstacles and dangers and pressures, and that is the basis of all human morality." So this academic year, I would like to present the H.D. Thoreau Humanities Award to the boy and girl who have consistently demonstrated a desire to speak, question, and converse. This award does not necessarily go to the student in humanities, the best student in humanities, but to that student who conspicuously enjoyed the intellectual and emotional challenges of the many topics we covered in class. Their voices were constantly heard, and I commend them for their courage to speak their minds. So I'm pleased to present these two awards to Mary Slavic and Matt Reffel.
That is a tough act to follow. Coming from someone who embraces courage on a regular basis in Mr. Hildreth, it means a lot for students and for teachers to come up and actually hear things like this said from people who know it or who walk the walk, so thank you. We started our year a little bit talking about the nature of American identity and what it means to be courageous, to be responsible, to have unity, to be full of integrity in all of those ideas. And throughout the year, we focused a little bit on some important landmark events that dedicate that and that celebrate that idea. From Lincoln's speech at Gettysburg to a man named Joshua Chamberlain leading men down from the free state of Maine when the threat of a northern invasion became a realistic possibility in 1863. From these, we heard Sojourner Truth's words, "And ain't I a woman who possessed courage just by walking into a room without needing to open her mouth." The great thing for these people is that they had experience and they had leadership and they had the opportunity to use those resources. You have this chance at Masters every day. Whether you are a younger student walking around the halls trying to navigate or an older student helping that person find his ways. None of those people we just mentioned came into responsibility or unity or courage without having had some relevant experience. And so as you go through your next 4 years, 8th graders especially, and 5th graders too, remember that every day that you are here, there's a chance, there's an opportunity, and it may not yet be that moment of ain't I a woman, or JFK, Profiles of Courage, or Joshua Chamberlain, or Lincoln, but that none of those people arrived at those areas without having had bedrock foundations of principality. To that end, as my colleague Mr. Hildreth has just well cited, it takes a lot of courage to speak your mind at a Harkness table. The two people this year, as my colleague has stated, have very strong grades, though that is not necessarily the absolute prerequisite for this award. As Henry David Thoreau once said, it is very often the voice of quiet authority that booms the loudest. And with that in mind, I am happy to award this year's Thoreau Award winners to Eliza Brewster and Noah Roger.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was outstanding. The celebration of the life of the mind, the intellectual curiosity, pursuits, achievements in language, math, science, the arts. It's heartwarming to be in a position like mine, Dr. Fonseca's and Mrs. Botero's, as we try to lead the school to see the fruits of our labor. And I can't even begin to imagine how joyful it must be for each and every one of you teachers to see and to hear what your children are doing each and every day, and in so many different venues. The cross-fertilization of ideas and concepts. The idea being that here we're not single-minded, we're not single-talented, but we allow our children to grow in so many areas, whether it be athletic, academic, social, musical. It never ceases to amaze me. I'm just so proud of the work the school does for and with each and every one of them. That said, I think Mrs. Torrielli has arrived. Is that correct? If I could ask you to come and join me, we have a couple more awards to give out. And we're actually moving right along on time. Beautifully so. The first award that we're going to give out right now is something called, thank you so much, called the Coaches Award. And I'm glad Mrs. Greeley's here with me. Stay nearby. Coaches Award is really an important award in our school. It is not necessarily the best athlete, but the Coaches Award is given each year to the young man or the young woman who exemplify all of the leadership skills that's implied in athletics, the people who are committed to the program, the people who take seriously the idea that mind, body, heart are all important. They set an example for their fellow players on a daily basis. They lead by example. The first ones on the field or on the court, the last ones off, the ones who mentor younger players, who are, you know that expression, coachable, right? When a coach makes suggestions, whether in the heat of a game or whether it's in a relaxed, a more relaxed practice session, change your arms, change your stance, bend over a little more, bend your knees, whatever it is. These are kids who can internalize that suggestion, act on it, make it a part of their performance. And what's interesting to me is that attitude, that mindset toward being coachable has immediate transfer into other areas of their lives. The classroom, the relationships with their peers, with their families. It's an intangible that you can actually understand and see in people like this. So it is with a great deal of pride that the school recognizes Iona McWhinney and Diego Medina. We present a Citizenship Award each year, and that, this too is a meaningful award at our school, given the kind of place we are. We're inclusive, we're a place that respects individuals, we're a school that celebrates differences, welcomes people into our midst. Even in times when the road gets bumpy, we all know that in middle school it's often a bumpy road, but there are always leaders in our student body who try to help others out, who reach out to others to make that rough road or that rough water a little smoother for others. Just by their presence, they again lead by example. They're kind, they're thoughtful, they're funny, they're serious. And at the end of the day, they're the people that we know we can count on. They're sort of our go-to persons. When we see a student who might be struggling, it's not uncommon for Mrs. T or me or the deans to seek these folks out and say, hey, look, so-and-so struggling a little bit. Do you think you could reach out to them just in your kind way and make them feel a little more comfortable or a little more at ease? Oh, sure. And without expecting anything in return, these folks are the kind of people who just do it because it's the right thing. And I couldn't ask for anything more on that level. So the Master's School is very proud this morning to present Citizenship Awards to Eliza Brewster and Daniel Cianavo. Following that same line of reasoning, the school also presents an award known as the Marola Family Award. And this award goes back to my earliest days here, when the mother of an 8th grade, or middle school, I guess she was in 7th grade when my mother became ill, had a monumental struggle with cancer, but was steel-hearted, single-minded, determined not to let it affect her daughter's adolescence. And this woman, Susan Marola, even just a couple of weekends before she died, she took her daughter skiing. More or less her last ounce of strength. Wonderful, wonderful woman. daughter, Spencer, terrific kid, went through our school and has gone on to do great things. And then several years later, her dad, who was an athlete, a distance runner, was stricken with a heart attack and passed away way too early, leaving her alone. And family, of course, welcomed her into their lives, took good care of her. But this kid is remarkable because she never gave up. She had this way about her, or has, she's an adult woman now, a zest for life, a way of looking at the world that was always positive despite what she was faced with as a child. And it's in that spirit that we give this award to students who, just see the glass half full, not half empty, who have the right attitude about life. And this is good. It's a beautiful day, no matter whether the sun's out or it's snowing. There's some good in all things, and there's that element of positive thinking, of taking joy even in the smallest accomplishments, not only of their own, but very often in the accomplishments of others. These people will often remind us, hey, did you know that so-and-so's birthday is coming? Hey, did you know that so-and-so did really well in a game yesterday, or got a couple of meaningful hits, or scored a goal? Again, not for their own self-aggrandizement, but for the good of others. And it's again, a remarkable thing. Citizenship, those things, matters of the heart. Those things matter to us on a par equal with academic excellence. And so we've got a couple, well, we had a lot of students to choose from on this score because we have so many wonderful kids in our 8th grade class. But this year, the school is very proud to offer the Rolla Family Award to Ellie Janasivic and to Noah Roger. Two more. Academic achievement, and that's really what we're all about in some ways. The idea that we talked about all morning, the life of the mind, people who work hard, who take their academic life seriously. We want more from school than just book learning, but people who are able to take ideas and transfer them to a larger whole, to a larger context for the good of others. And that's really important to us. It's not just the tallying up of the number of items correct in relation to the number of items incorrect. It's about effort, it's about determination, it's about using what you have mastered. And so as we look at the people who are going to receive this award this morning, that is so apparent in their day-to-day interactions with their teachers, with their peers, with the material that they're studying. They're inquisitive, they're thoughtful. You know, they want to know why, and they want to know why not. And a particular favorite of mine is that they are also willing to have that conversation that says, gee, you know, I hadn't thought of it that way before, but maybe there's something to what you're saying. I'm open-minded and willing enough to take a look at it, at an idea or a concept from another perspective, modify, in some cases, my thought, and say, yeah, okay, I can move on that issue or have the courage of their convictions and say very confidently, no, I've listened to you carefully, I've considered what you've had to say, and thank you, but no, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. And I love that about both of these students as they approach the acquisition of information and the development of true knowledge. And so I'm happy on behalf of the Master's School to present the awards for academic achievement to Eliza Brewster and Teddy Whitsingham. I can hear my father. The next award is for effort and having a sense of determination and purpose. And this is one that I love to give out every year. It's no secret. This is something near and dear to me. The idea of it's not a measure of what you have, but what you do with what you have. And these two students have shown me, shown the faculty, shown their peers on a day-to-day basis that they have grit, that they have a teacher in high school that I had what I used to call stick-to-itiveness. I had trouble spelling it, but I know what it meant. That you just stay on task no matter what is getting in the way. You might get discouraged along the way from time to time, but you find somehow some inner strength to see your way through the clouds, to see your way through the storm, and break through it into the daylight, and make your successes, though they might be small at times, chip away at things, stay with it until it becomes second nature to you, until you find that measure of success. And a lot of you have heard me say this, but you know how I often say, if everybody gives me this much, we end up with this much. And I think that attitude is true with these two students. Sometimes the progress is this much, and then tomorrow it's this much, and the next day it's this much. But when you look back at that journey, wow, they've come a long way, and they've done remarkable things, and I know that they will continue to do remarkable things because they have that inner grit, that desire to stay with the course. They believe in themselves, and as a result, we believe in them. So it is with great pride that we give the Effort Award this year to Sophie Kahana and Austin Jandruka. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and attention. That concludes the awards ceremony this morning. We're going to take a short break while we set up for the showcase. We're pretty close to the meeting. I believe there's a bathroom break in store for you. Did we get these outside? Anyway, take 5, as they say.